Welcome to the SPS Digital Learning Hour, brought to you by the Digital Learning and Assessment Department. We're coming to you today from a conference room in Central Office, bringing you the latest news in Springfield Public Schools in regards to technology, along with inspiring interviews from teachers who are using technology in the classroom. I'm your host, Mike Thomas, the Bearded Tech Ed Guy. You can find me out on all the social medias at Bearded Tech Ed, or you can find me on my website, beardedtechedguy.com. And you can also find me on the My SPS internal website under We Learn. There's lots of things going on in the district, and we are so excited that you're spending a little bit of time today with us. We really only have one announcement today, and that is to make sure that you know that as a staff member, you can connect a personal device to the My SPS wireless network. There is the ability for you to connect your phone or your own personal tablet or your own personal computer to our network. If you go out to the OITA page under My SPS, you will see under News and Announcements the directions on how to do this. If you have any questions, you follow the directions. There is links for help. If you listened last week, you would have heard us talking about CSforAll Springfield, one of the initiatives that we are pushing forward in this district. Last week, you heard from the design team teachers and from our office with our CIO, Paul Foster. We would like to continue that trend and hearing more about CSforAll Springfield as we are gearing up for the next round of design team teachers for grades 2 and 5. So with that, we're going to hear from our researchers from UMass, and we're going to hear from our coordinators. So first up is the lead researcher, Adrion, and you can hear all about the genesis of this project. So take a listen. Can you describe your research as part of the CSforAll Springfield initiative?
Well, sure. First of all, I have to say that I'm the principal investigator of the whole project, so I'm responsible for the whole project. Yeah. So I besides trying to manage the project itself, the research I'm doing is with Florence Sullivan, who I don't know whether you've talked to her yet or not. And Florence and I and the graduate students are really trying to look at two things. One, how well this process does in having the teachers learn how to teach computer science and learn the computer science they need to teach it. And then what we really haven't gotten to in this first year is how well the students are actually evolving in their understanding of computer science. We can see they're engaged, but we, because of institutional review board issues, we haven't really been able to interview the children as much. So we don't have a measure, and we're going to start on that next year. So my research role particularly is in, we observe the teachers, we observe them teaching, we look at all of the designs from the initial abstract to the first implementation to the second to the third. We look at how they've changed, go to the classrooms, we photograph everything, we video, we interview the teachers, we will interview students eventually. We collect up all the artifacts that the kids produce. And so we have a wealth of data that we're in the process of trying to figure out how to analyze. So right now, what we're really doing is looking at the process of how the lessons have evolved over the 6 months of the project so far.
So why do you feel your research is important to the larger CSforAll Springfield initiative?
Well, I mean, it's all about reaching all the children and getting, well, there's two real goals from my perspective. One is there's really no teachers training programs and education programs out there that prepares them to teach computer science. But there are standards in the state, and the standards are also related to licensure. And for kindergarten through 5th grade, the teachers are going to be responsible for teaching against the standards without having been prepared to do so. So part of this project is a way of, by apprentice, in involving them in the design and implementation process for the teachers to get the skills they need in order to teach computer science. And so we went through this pilot, and now they're going to lead an effort to try to get it into all the schools in 2 grades, and then we'll do 2 grades each year. So that's one goal. And the other is that I've been involved in this for more than a decade at a national level, trying to push computer science down because it's necessary skill for everybody. And this is not a pathway towards, I'm a computer science professor, but it's not a pathway towards computer science majors. It's a pathway towards being a citizen in a digital economy like we have now. So it's important that every child really understands how the technology works and use it eventually in a career or in college to their benefit. So this research is really measuring the fundamental. So there are 3 research projects, and one of them is looking at how diverse the project is and how do we deal with diversity. Another one is looking at collaboration and coordination across teams. And our research is really focused much more on the classroom and what the teachers are doing, how well they are progressing, and how well their students are progressing.
So why start with K through 5 as the starting point? Why not start with the grades, middle school or
high school?
Secondary, high school, yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. Nationally, most of the effort started at the high school level. The focus nationally has been on 2 or 3 different approaches to, say, teaching introductory computer science, at the high school level, and teaching AP computer science. That's already being done in Springfield, but it's already being done for mostly white males. And so the women and students of color get lost early in the process. So you'd like to move back to maybe middle school and start dealing with that, and there are a number of projects nationally that are working at the middle school level. Here, middle schools are part of the empowerment zone and kind of independent, and so it's much harder to coordinate them. And secondly, not enough people working at the K-5 level. And given that the state is requiring K-5 teachers to teach the standards at kindergarten through 5th, somebody needs to start trying to figure out how they're going to do that. And there are training programs, there are education programs being developed at the schools of ed around the state, but it's going to take a decade before that has it. Those are in place, and then a decade before that has any influence on who's teaching. So this is an effort to try to jumpstart that process. And that's why, the reason we chose K-5, because we had a planning process that preceded this for 2 years, and that was a district commitment to computer science for all at every grade level and integrated into all the curriculum. But when we decided to start pursuing a big grant like this one, we had to choose an area, and we chose to start with K-5 because hopefully we'll have a whole bunch of upcoming 6th graders in a few years demanding computer science at the middle school and the high school, and then maybe that'll produce a more diverse set of students going into the high school courses. High school courses are pretty successful, and where they're taught by a diverse set of teachers, they are attracting a diverse set of students, but largely they're taught in tech-ish programs at the high school level and draw people who are into tech-ish programs. And if you haven't gotten girls in, African Americans and Latinx students interested in computer science by 7th grade or so, they're going to get off on a path that doesn't prepare them to go into those courses in the high school or even interest them.
So in your opinion, what does CS mean and why is it good for our students?
Well, so the standards in the state are digital literacy and computer science, and the computer science part of this, it's about 50-50. So digital literacy is all about using computing effectively. So being able to graph things and collect data and so forth. The computer science part of the standards are really focused on computational thinking, which is how I would define the work at the K-5, K-12 level, particularly K-5. And that's all about trying to think about how you'd solve problems in a way that's amenable to using computers to help you solve those problems. And so I'm really opposed to this sort of push towards coding as the big thing. I think you learn how to to take the problem in hand and define it in a way that you can then code a solution to it. But just coding in order to make games or move things around on the board. And I think the lessons that have been created so far are pretty good in that sense. They're not focused just on coding. The kids, of course, get interested in coding. That's great. But to me, computer science is a way of thinking. So everybody's going to have to deal with technology, and not everybody has to program, but everybody is going to have to use it in a way that they understand how it works so they can use it effectively, and that's what computational thinking is about.
With you being part of the research end of this, what are some of the highlights that you've seen this year?
First of all, this is a research practice partnership in which all 54 people that are currently on the project are supposed to be part of the research. So it's not. So we have research teams and we have design teams and we have more teams than you could number. But I just want to make the case that this is all about everybody working together and everybody being a part of the research. And I think that that's one of the struggles we've had this year. But your question was again? Say it again. I'm sorry.
Highlights.
Oh, highlights. Well, I think what's been interesting is to watch how the teachers engage their classes. And every classroom is different. And there are some teachers, I think, that have followed a more scripted approach, and some of them have been more flexible in how they teach it. But I think what we've observed is how much change has occurred in the lessons over the 3 iterations that we've gone to. So the initial design has been quite updated in order to be more effective and more differentiated for different students. And secondly, there's more consistency, so more towards learning progressions between first quarter, second, and third, fourth, whereas because of the way we had set it up on the professional development initially, they were pretty much duplications. The fourth quarter was teaching some of the same things the first quarter was. That's reinforcing is fine, but that's part of the problem of the teachers having to learn computer science along with the student. I think what we've really noticed is how engaged the kids are in the classroom, how engaged most of the teachers are in teaching it. We've learned how hard it's been for them, and I think many of them might not have signed up if they'd known how much work they had to do. But I think they're all proud of what they did in the end. So I hope we get more recruited pilot teachers for next year. But so our research has been really focused in the classroom, and so we've just seen kids who are not normally engaged because of issues of special education or language or attention deficit disorder or whatever, actually get engaged. And one of the examples we have is this child who's from a Spanish-speaking family and who speaks only Spanish at home. So he, I think, probably is still translating in the classroom. So they have to take special pains to include him in things. When they started doing the project, especially the fourth quarter project, this kid got so engaged in it that he began to help all the other kids in the classroom. And this became a tool for him to really become much more part of the class than he was sort of sitting alone, being separated off. So those kinds of effects are what we found nationally is that computer science is very engaging, or computational thinking is very engaging. And because kids are pretty technology savvy, digital natives or whatever. But often they don't understand that this computer is more powerful than the computer I did my doctorate on. And it's trying to understand that and understand the limitations and the power.
Awesome.
Good.
Thank you.
Next up is another one of the researchers from UMass, Florence Sullivan.
Can you describe your research as part of the CSforAll Springfield initiative?
Our research focuses on teachers and students. Our work is done primarily in the classroom. So we go in and observe the actual lessons being taught. And our research is, we are working on a design-based research project. Design-based research focuses on an iterative process of design. So the teachers created the modules that have several lessons, and then they teach them in their classroom. And we go in and we videotape, we watch, we evaluate, we help the teachers think about what they could do better, differently, what went well, who did it work well for, how did the lesson work. And that is actually work that the teachers are doing in the design dyads, and we're supporting that work. We go to the design team meetings, we give our feedback in different ways. So our research is focused on the design process. How is that unfolding? How does it work for the teachers? How do the teachers feel about it? Teacher learning. So teachers are learning what computational thinking is and how to teach computational thinking. And we're also focused on student learning. For this first year, we've mostly focused on the teacher design, development of the lessons, and then teacher learning. Next year, we're hoping to do a lot more with student learning. We'll be focusing on developing methods for interviewing students, so there'll be clinical interviews and also artifact interviews to probe their thinking a little bit more, try to understand what they're learning. We also would like to eventually be able to create some assessments that can be used by teachers in the classrooms to help them understand what teachers are learning. So that's a long-term goal. So our research really focuses on teacher and student learning and the design process, development of the lessons, and assessments.
So in your opinion, what does CS mean and why is it good for our students?
CS stands for computer science. Computer science at this point, though, is essentially computers are ubiquitous, and computation is ubiquitous in daily life. So most of us use computers for work. Most of us have, many people have a cell phone that is essentially a small computer, a small computational device in their pocket. A lot of the products that we buy and use have some sort of computational aspect to them. For example, cars. Now you can't fix a late model car without a computer. So the reality is our world in the United States, at least, is becoming more and more digital, technological. And there's a way that digital items work. And they run programs, and figuring out how to use a program, how to write a program is essentially computer science. To go broader with the idea of CS, I think of in terms of how it's thought of in the CS4All movement, is that essentially computer science helps us solve problems with computers and with computation. In some ways, it's a specific approach to problem solving. So if you wanted to sort of broaden out your thinking about what computer science is, or what, for example, computational thinking is, it's solving problems with computers, using programming languages to create programs that will help you solve problems in daily life. So that's another way to sort of think about it. And when you start to think about it that way, it becomes a much broader topic. And I think that's what CS4All is trying to get at. So we start to include ideas like artificial intelligence or robotics or some of these very future world ideas, but the future is essentially right around the corner.
So why do you feel this research is important for the larger CS4All Springfield initiative?
Why is our research important for the CS4All Springfield initiative? Well, I think that we are providing guidance. We're providing in some cases, theoretical frameworks. I think we might be changing the conversation a little bit. I think our presence gives the teachers and the district personnel access to the way that we think about things, and at the same time, we gain access to how they think about things. So we're in a college. I'm in a college of education, and colleges of education are charged with preparing teachers, but also doing research on curriculum and on pedagogy. And so we're sort of specialists in these areas. So we can bring our specialty to practitioners who are in the classroom every day. We can learn from them, they can learn from us. So I think our research really broadens the conversation and deepens the work.
So in your role, what are some of the highlights that you've seen in the past year?
Well, for me, because of who I am, all of the highlights have been in the classroom. I love to be in the classroom with teachers and students, and I've seen some excellent teaching, very excellent teaching. I was just really amazed at some of the thinking that kindergartners were being asked to do and that they were successfully doing. For example, there was a logical reasoning game that one of the teachers was playing with the students, and she basically had a 2-row matrix, and she had 6 different characters, and some of them had similar characteristics, and she was asking students to, by a process of logical elimination, figure out which character she was talking about. And I was really impressed with that. Another kindergarten teacher was having students find errors in 5x5 matrix. And I thought that was pretty high level for kindergartners. So I was very impressed with the teaching that I saw and the learning of the students. The other thing that was really cool was just the joy of the students in taking part in the lessons. So scratch, metals, rods, all of those technologies are fun to play with. And so it's exciting for kids. So I saw a lot of joy, and my kids really enjoyed scratch and seeing it as both kind of a fun game-like activity while they're doing it. So I think that exciting. Stop scratching to some of those things. So it's very I guess one last thing I want to say is this is a really it's really nice to have the opportunity to get to know so many of the Springfield Public School District folks and the teachers. It's a unique opportunity, and it's one that I really feel actually very happy to have this opportunity. So, thanks.
Awesome.
Now we're going to hear from a few of the coordinators of the CSforAll Springfield. These are teachers and leaders in the district who are kind of guiding this work and trying to make sure that everybody has the tools and things that they need. First up is Rachel Chouinard.
Describe the process that has occurred during the first year of implementation.
The process this year has been a learning experience. What's been going on is that we would have meetings with our design team teachers, and then we would have them create lesson modules. The lesson modules would then be piloted, passed on to another team of teachers. We would provide feedback, and then it would continue in a cycle.
So how do you feel this project has evolved, and what were some of the highlights so far to date?
We have been constantly changing our process. I wouldn't say that the process technically, but we have been changing and growing. So one meeting we may have done one sort of protocol and then change that protocol over time. And we have grown with our meetings and with our reflections. Some of the highlights have been some of the protocols and just watching the teachers light up as they have been working, seeing what works and what doesn't work, and watching everyone grow.
So what are some of the next steps for the Springfield CS?
So we are evolving such that we are getting some great new tools like a hummingbird, which we'll be using, I believe, in the 5th grade. We haven't really set any exact parameters yet, but as a coordinator team, we constantly work together to evolve and to make the decisions that will help the next grade level. So right now we have the kindergarten and third grade modules. The vertical progression will be that next year, the first and fourth grade design teams will create their modules, and then the second and fifth grade. So we're working on the vertical progression and matching those lessons up together.
So in your opinion, what does CS mean or encompass, and why is this good for kids?
Well, it's computational thinking standards that we are embedding, and it's a way of thinking that will help our students have more opportunities later on. So our students at the kindergarten level will already have more opportunities than other students in other districts. By embedding these computational thinking standards, they will have a new way of thinking that others don't.
Another one of our coordinators in the district here is Melissa Zeitz.
Can you describe the process that has occurred during this first year of implementation?
Really, we gathered a group of wonderful teachers together to have them write curriculum that's connected to computer science, but also to the curriculum, with knowing that it's going to be pushed out to all 33 elementary schools. We want to make sure whatever was written was applicable to all teachers and all students. So they were piloted 4 times to make sure that we got every kink out of what was being done with all of these different lessons. All of the lessons have some type of computer science, computational thinking focus.
So how do you feel the project has evolved, and what are some of the highlights of this year?
I think the highlights is there are a lot more teachers on board with computer science that realize that it's not as scary as it comes off to be. We're hearing how the students are engaged and excited about learning about it. And I think that's a really nice highlight to what's been going on.
So what are some of the next steps for CSforAll Springfield?
I mean, our dream is that every teacher in Springfield will be doing computer science in grades K through 5. But our next step is that the grade 1 and 4 will be writing their lessons and piloting them out using some great new tools, software, unplugged activities. In K through 3, district-wide, we'll be able to implement them. And what's even better is that the district is supplying all of the materials that they will need to implement these lessons.
So why is CS good for students?
Computer science is the foundation of pretty much everything students do, but also any job that they get involved in. I mean, it really teaches perseverance, collaboration, creativity. It helps them think outside of the box. Computer science really, you need those basic skills. What is an algorithm is really sequencing and following steps in order. And then when there is a problem, debugging it and trying to figure out where the problem is, or learning how to just break a larger problem down. So really it's just the foundation skills like reading and math that they need later on in life to create bigger things, the next new innovation. And it also pushes students to become more producers of things rather than just consumers of technology.
And our final interview for this week is with Scott Wohlers, who is also one of the coordinators.
So describe the process that has occurred during the first year of implementation.
So I say the process is discovering our process. When we started doing this, we knew what our end goal was for the most part, but how we're going to get there was a big unknown. We didn't have a lot to look at either, because what we're doing and the way we're doing it has only been done a handful of times ever in the entire country. So just figuring out what our process is has been part of the process, and I feel that we've come a really long way in that process. So basically, the process is what do we need to get to where we want to go, and then we identify that, and then people just sort of fill in like, oh, well, I can do this part and I can do that part. So in that way, we really have been working together as a team really well, because we've done a really good job, I feel, of seeing what needs to be done, and whoever's able to fill in that role steps up and does it. And that's how the process has gone through the entire year. So our process this year was just figuring out what our process really is.
So what are some highlights to date?
Some of the highlights include that we have modules created, which is really exciting because we went from the beginning of the year where we weren't even really sure what the modules were going to look like, how it was all going to work, and we've, through a lot of hard work by a lot of people, we've come to the point where we have all of these modules that are pretty much ready to go. They're going to be going live next year in classrooms in kindergarten and in second grade. So that's been really exciting just to see that everything worked out and that people are excited about the work that they're about to do.
So what are some of the next steps for CSforAll Springfield?
So there's a couple of next steps. So the most immediate next steps are to complete the process with the rest of the elementary grades. So we start off with K2, and then we're going to go 1, 4, 3, 5. So the next steps are simply making those modules. More medium and longer term next steps. We can look at this project that we're doing not as the final thing that we're going to do, but really one pretty small step towards the wider world of computer science. So how I sort of see this is that this raises awareness to everyone that computer science is a thing that we should know about, and then starts giving people teachers and administrators and just educators across the board, raises awareness, puts it on the map, and then gives them some experience. So it's not this mysterious thing that they can't do because they're not a computer scientist. Teachers and educators can understand that they can very, very well teach this in their classrooms. And once we get to that step where everyone has an awareness of it and everybody has reached a certain comfort level, now we can take, I think, the next step, which is just to embed computer science more, figure out more with the district how computer science is going to work seamlessly from K through high school. Because now we have all of the things we have everything in place. We have computer science that is being taught in some way, shape, or form through the entire time you're in Springfield. So I think the next step is just thinking a little bit more deeply about how those connect to the different grade levels, building out the computer science a little bit more, and also giving the teachers the tools and knowledge that they need to, on their own, start to seamlessly weaving some of these computer science and computational thinking skills in their everyday work, which is, I think, they'll discover by using the modules is really can be much less complicated than maybe you would think going in.
Yeah, especially because half the standards most teachers are actually kind of doing already.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be sort of an aha moment when teachers, I think a big thing that's going to be sort of like an aha moment, reduce anxiety and also increase enthusiasm, is when teachers first find out you don't even need any technology to teach computer science. I know for me, when I first saw that, I was like, what? Computer science is coding. How do you do coding without a computer? And then I realized, okay, computer science is not coding. It's one tool, but it's not coding. It's one thing that you do, and it's not even necessarily the technology. It is just a way of thinking strategically, basically. And that's something that we teach our students to do every single day. And I think that'll be a little bit more obvious as you just get used to the work and see it in action.
So in your opinion, what does CS mean and encompass, and why is this good for our students?
I'll start with why it's good for our students. Computer science is a part of almost every single thing that is involved in our everyday lives, from the clothes on your back, to the computer, to the car that you drive, to the air that you breathe. Everything that we do is touched by computer science at some point. So what this is doing for our students is, one, is demystifying that, helping them to understand that there is computer science involved everywhere. And then they can be computer scientists, so it sort of demystifies it for them too. So they can think to themselves, oh, I can also do that. I can help, look at air quality, or design car seats, or make video games, or design shoes, or just anything, you name it, so that it's demystified. They understand that it's embedded in everything that they do, and they can start to see maybe see themselves as computer scientists in ways that they didn't before, and also understand that while all this is going on, they can have a career that is part of that. And they can also use computer science to be creative and hopefully that's exciting for them too. So just opening up like job opportunities and just seeing yourself as somebody who is not, just somebody who just plays video games or watches YouTube, but somebody who is now a creator and being involved in it. It's not magic. You can do it on your own, and you don't have to be some super hacker. You just do some work, and there you have it. You can be a computer scientist too.
Thank you to everyone who I've had the chance to interview over the last few weeks about Computer Science for All. So if this is something that you think you want to be a part of, I highly encourage you to go out to our TeachPoint site and sign up. The next round of design team teachers is coming up. That's for 2nd through 5th grade, and you never know what other opportunities might appear. We also have a showcase coming up that I'll reference when we have the date firm and the time firm of when that is. But look for that at the end of March, early April, where we go out and we display all the things that have been going on over at our PD Center. If it's something that you're interested, reach out to us. You can reach out to us through the help desk. You can also reach out directly to me at Thomas MI, and I will put you in the right place or point you in the right direction. Next week, we're going to get back into our regularly scheduled set of interviews. I can't wait to share the ones that are coming up with you. I am very excited about the teachers that I have gone out and spoken to. But for now, I just want to thank you all for listening and spending some time with us. If you love this podcast, go out and leave us a review on your favorite podcast site over at iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Spreaker, Google Play Store, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to us. Give us a review, follow us, subscribe, share, because as you know, the way for podcasts to grow is that they need to be shared, and they need to be reviewed, and they need some 5-star reviews, and that's what bumps them up the list and people listening, and that's how we can share all the great work that is happening here. And I'm just going to leave you with this thought. If at all you are considering computer science in your classrooms, I highly encourage you to go out to the TeachPoint, sign up for it. We have a video out on our Microsoft Stream, which there is a link for in the TeachPoints, so you can kind of see the stuff that's going on and how it is affecting students. I'm Mike Thomas, the Bearded Tech Ed Guy, and this is the SPS Digital Learning Hour.